Hi you guys, I'm here at my desk and there's been some major serious crafting going on around here the last couple of weeks, and every now and then things just need to get cleaned up and organized, and I end up on my desk with these little buckets of little like die cuts and things like that I haven't bothered to put away yet, or I've die cut them as I go with my scraps to get them out of the way. I've got stuff, if I panned out of this room, panned out a little bit. I've got things like this tissue paper left over from the Tim Holtz tags, things like that, just odds and ends laying around on my desk. So I've decided to do a mixed media canvas with it, and I'm going to call this the remains of the day. I know that there's a journal that's like that, but this canvas is going to be kind of that way. Anyway, I'm going to kind of take y'all along on the journey of this canvas with me. Today, all I did was I just took these little odds and end pieces and basically decoupaged them to an 8x10 canvas using the Ranger Glue and Seal. If you're still using Mod Podge, throw it in the trash and buy this, or Claudine Hillman's Matte Medium. I'm telling you now, it will change your life. Mod Podge is sticky. It becomes, especially in humid climates, it's very sticky. The stuff is not, and it dries beautifully and pretty quick too. So I've got my base on, and basically all I did was take all these elements and just brushed that glue onto the back of them and put them down. Some of these heavier chipboard pieces, I did add some hot glue to them so that I could make sure that they would stay. But anyway, I'm gonna go and gesso this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I've gessoed the entire piece, and I've picked up a couple of different things. I've got my creme brulee cream, Lundy Stamp Gang, and I've also picked up some of this metal or metallic pearl white from Folk Art paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of like dry brush these things over and lightly spritz this with the Lundy Stamp Gang, because I don't want a lot of color on here. This particular canvas is going to stay white in the background, and I know you're thinking, why would you cover it up with all of that lusciousness to just you know, all of those, you know, pieces, and then paint over them again with white, because now you're covering up the designs that were on all those papers. Well, the trick to this is that not so much the pattern on the paper, but what peeks through. So, you know, like on the music paper, obviously it was dark, you can see it. It's also the texture of the paint, that whenever the paint layers down on top of the paper, especially like thin tissue papers and things, what happens is this really cool texture appears. So it's not so much that I wanted the patterns on the papers as it is the textures of the papers. So I'm going to go over this a couple of times with this paint, and obviously this paint, this particular bottle that I got out, is almost dry. So I'm going to have to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, I don't even know if you guys can see it, but I have a palette over here on the side of paint, and what I'm doing is I put a little bit of water in with it to water it down, and not a lot, just a little bit, and I have it on the sponge. And now what I'm going to do is just kind of lightly brush over the entire canvas with this paint. Now you can still see the text and stuff from the newsprint, but now you can't read it, which is what I wanted to do, because, you know, the definitions were not quite what I wanted. You can tell there's music paper back there. I'm after texture. I'm not so much after what's written on the paper, but more so the texture of the paper. And this is so cool. I really wish you guys could see this in real life, because it really is neat, and it's very shiny. And I'm not like I said, I'm just lightly covering over it. You can really see the texture over here of the lace. You can see of all these little die cuts you can even see the texture on some of this print that is kind of bubbling up in the doily over here. So I'm gonna go answer my phone. I'll be right back, and we'll go on to the phase 2. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm going to kind of tilt this so you can kind of see. I took and I covered it with this metallic paint, and then I also went over it with this Lindy Stamp Gang Creme Brulee. And I don't know if you can see the subtleness of the gold on the contrast of the white, but I really, really, really like this look. So then what I've done is I took one of these old Daisy D frames, and we're talking 2004. They're old. And I covered it in black paint, and then I covered over the top of that with bead gel that's made by Golden. And then I let it dry, and I came back over it with this metallic paint on my finger and just rubbed over it to bring up some of those little spots where the bead gel is. So it gives it this really neat looking metallic, framey, you know, almost corroded look. And then after it was dry, I hit it again with the creme brulee to bring the gold back in. And now I'm ready to add it to the thing. So one thing I want to point out with this is taking a product that is archaic, that 9 times out of 10 people would just want to throw it in the trash, and look at what it's turned into. I mean, it's a beautiful frame now. It's not a cheesy little cardstock yuck frame, laser cut frame. I've got the yuckiest fingers in the universe right now. So anyway, I am going to, let me show you what it's going to look like on here, because I really like the contrast of this frame being, you know, kind of a steely gray color, while the other stuff on here is, you know, snowy white. And you can see a hint of the gold, and I love the fact that it's staying white. I was going to cover this up with another paint color, but decided I like the contrast of just the white. And by the time I fill in with all white and black flowers and make a nice spray on here, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with the way this turned out. So I'm going to go get my plan together on how I want this decorated, and I'll be right back. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see the real, you know, that even though we covered this with white, there's still a lot of texture that you're seeing from the elements that were on the back of the canvas. You can still see like the edges of the doily. You can still see this die cut shape. You can still see over on this side the gears. And I really like the way that the mixed media gives you like a depth of field, so that every time you look at this canvas you're going to see something completely different. I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up, but you can still see some of the music note paper back here in the background, and you can still see some of the pattern paper here, and I can see some of the dictionary pages here. So I'm really liking how this turned out. I love the contrast of the all white flowers with the spray, and then I incorporated some of Carla's butterflies here that she had, or actually Tonya, I believe, had sent them to me in my last squirrely box. So, and here's one here, the big one. Then I incorporated in some Prima bling. I just cut it apart and stuck it all around, and then just added a few extra little bling rhinestones just to kind of give some balance between what was actually in the spray on the tail end of some of the pieces of the swirls. Like this one I think was incorporated into the spray, so this just kind of helps to balance it out, and same thing with here. And then as you move down, these, I don't know if you can see them or not, but there's these little crystal blings that are here and that worked into the canvas. This was actually a spray from Prima that I cut apart, and it had little crystal leaves. I've used it before. And then moving on down the canvas, I'll try and zoom in a little bit so you can see some of the detail here on the bird and the bird cage. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it or not, but this is just cut. The bird cage is, of course, the Tim Holtz bird cage. I use it all the time. I have so gotten my money's worth out of this. But I have embossed music on staff onto the bird cage with the silver. And then the bird, I used Tim Holt's technique for the UD and the shrink plastic that he taught in the 12 Tags of Christmas. I have a feeling I'm going to be using this technique a lot because I'm a big fan of the shrink plastic. And when I finished with the bird cage, I thought, I really need a bird, but I didn't want a bird that was going to draw attention necessarily to the bird. So I was on the phone with another friend and I said, maybe a crystal bird. That's what I need to find. So basically this was cut from the home accent cartridge and from the Cricut, and it's the hummingbird. I love that bird. It's so like whimsical. I love it. And it's got these little swirls and flourishes out all around it. And I cut it at 8 inches. And then I shrunk it down, and it shrunk down to about 4 inches from the end of his wing up here to the tip of his tail. Really, really, really love how that turned out. I'm a big fan of this technique. Thank you, Tim, for sharing it with us. And then here on this side, I have this stamp, and I stamped it onto a piece of packaging and then embossed it with white, and it says, "A friend is someone who knows the song in your heart." I have the rest of the quote. I'm going to put it on the back of the canvas. So anyway, there's my tour of the canvas. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed watching me go through this in steps. And I will talk to you guys later.